It's finally Friday. It's Finish Strong Friday. It is Let's Go Get It Done Friday, because maybe you missed a call or two this week. Not today. You're going to show up and show out before that weekend comes in. Welcome, everybody, and good morning to Grow. I am your coach, Marcus Heflin, out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I am accompanied by your favorite storyteller. And guess what? He's got one for you today. The boy from the Bayou, the Gumbo King, Mr. Coach Kyle Evans from Constellation Collective. What's going on today, Bubba?
Not much, man. Just here to hang out with you, pour into these people. Happy Friday, Marcus. Look, dude, we get the fun thing of this. You don't get a lot of redos in life, right? In fact, you don't get any redos in life. Tuesday, I believe it was, we had an absolute banger of an episode that no one will ever hear because for some reason or another, there was a ghost in the machine and the audio didn't work, but it was awesome. But it was so awesome. We were like, we can't let that go. We got to bring it back, guys. So today we get the privilege to bring back Tuesday's episode, which was
Yes,
the
sir.
16 undeniable laws of communication.
Yeah, and this book has
That's where
been
I'm at.
pretty amazing for us so far, man. It's a breakdown in a really cool way. So it's a book, obviously, that you're normally reading, yet he frameworks it to where you can study it at a deeper level. And we've both been really impressed by this. So, how do you want to start off this segment, buddy? Like, how do we kick this off?
Well, Marcus, I mean, first and foremost, we got to talk about the important stuff here, guys. Our foundational principles, our bold law each and every week that we're focusing on. Shout out GK and the new Onward Bold here is you can't please everyone. You just can't, and we got to hear from Ray yesterday talking about his thoughts on it. Marcus, I think this has shown up in all of our content the entire week. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it shows up in our law this week of communication.
Big time. Yeah, we'll go into it in the material. And yet there's one common theme that we hear from most top producers that we bring onto the show is they had to get real and get right about what they were going after and get clear on that. And sometimes that means eliminating the noise and not caring about what everyone thinks and be more inclined with what the most important people think, with the people that are on in your boat, right? Going in the same direction as you, rowing in the same direction. And guys, hey, part of that foundation is our habits and our reps that we're putting in. So who you calling this week? DTD2 schedule is T and J. Everyone with the last name T and J. Make sure they get a ring from you. Hey, in this time of year, man, make sure you're top 100. And I say that with kind of just a description, not an actual number. Who are your top people in your database that need to hear from you this time of year? Don't want to let the new year come and go, and then all of a sudden, then they hear from you. So reach out, maybe do a little extra effort as we finish this year strong on a Finish Strong Friday. Kyle Evans, what's our first little snippet into this week's lesson in this book that we've got?
Man, so we are on law number 3, Marcus. Again, guys, if you want to play along here, we are reading the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication by Sir John C. Maxwell. We are on number 3. So if you want to catch up and want to play all in, there is still time. We're not that far ahead. This one is a cool one, man. This one's called the Law of Conviction. The law of conviction. And what we don't mean is that thing you did when you were 15 that you shouldn't have. We're talking about a conviction on what do you feel convicted of in your spirit, right? In your brain, in your heart, and things that take precedence in your purpose. And I found a lot of good nuggies in this chapter, just like you did, Marcus. So let's dive in, man. One of the things that he says at the very top, the very title, I think shows up not just in our personal life, but in our sales business as well at a high level. It is the stronger you believe it, the more people will feel it. The stronger you believe it, the more people will feel it. Guys, you got to understand when you go on a listing appointment, when you were doing a buyer strategy session, and you don't believe the value that you have, they won't either.
That leads to that awkward moment at the very end when you go like, you hire me, right? And it's instead of saying, hey, the next logical step is that we sign the agreement so I can get to work for you. How's that sound? Boop. Put it over there, blue ink, press hard, right? It's how you show up with that confidence. And man, if I could articulate that to any newer agent, I mean, it's one of the things that I really, really emphasize when we're on the road, and that any newer agent or any agent who hasn't got that volume in their career yet, show up with that confidence, with that conviction that you know you're the best agent for that job. And hey, and deep in your mind, if you're thinking you're not, it's going to show up in your presentation. So part of that as we go into this is the type of leader that we are becoming right along this way. And to be a great leader, you have to be a transformational leader. Kyle, let's break down what transformational leader kind of looks like, because we got some points that kind of help really emphasize what that is.
I think it's important too that we call out nuanced language that you're saying and that you believe in. You said the type of leaders that we're becoming,
Hmm.
not the type of leaders that we are. Guys, please understand this, and we constantly talk about this on the show. Life is a journey, right? We're not going to arrive. We're going to continue to strive to be better at things. We, when I say we, don't want to put this on you. Marcus and I have our shortcomings. We
What?
have our failures. We have our gaps. We are very aware of these gaps. Some we're not aware of, and we're working on that. Guys, be easy on yourself, but also be hard on yourself, right? Like, this is a journey of growth. So me and Marcus are making the choice to become better leaders as we move on. And the first one on here, I love it, is Marcus, you got to see things others do not see.
Uh, we have a dynamic guest, and she's going to come in and kind of rock our world as far as her perspective towards her business next week. And I think that's going to be really life changing. And yet, think about what Rayberry said. Think about what Gumbo Joe said. Think about all of the people we've ever had on here, and they don't listen to naysayers. They don't listen to the status quo. They see what they're going to go after, and then they just make a choice to go do it. What are you accepting that other people have given you versus choosing to see things differently? And the minute you start to see things in a different light, with a different perspective, and start to believe it, my goodness, you can really go in a different direction. And once we start seeing things differently, well, we also have to take the next step and believe things that others do not believe. Believing in ourselves first, but also when you hear believe things others don't see. What'd you get from the book in that regard, bud?
Man, I think it goes back to nobody wants to follow somebody who doesn't believe in more, believe in a bigger vision, believe in something better, right?
Hmm.
Hey, Marcus, come with me, man. I'm going to lead you to less than you are now. Let's go.
Woo! I'm there.
Woo! Guys, you got to believe things others don't. And in fact, I tell this to people all the time. Stop taking advice from people you don't want to model your life after. Stop taking advice from people who are choosing to live a different life than you're choosing to live. You got to believe things that others don't believe. If you want to believe what everyone else believes, guess what that means? You're going to be ordinary. And that's okay if that's your choice. But because you're on this show, because you're showing up this morning, I'm going to assume that you want a little extra, maybe even a lot extra. That means we have to believe things that others aren't going to believe. We have to believe that we were called for this. We were meant for this moment. We have the stuff in our tank. We have the ability to grow, change, and exceed the limitations of the world. Whoa, Marcus, I had my coffee this morning. Let's
You
go.
Give me that double shot of espresso and back up, everybody. You need to turn your volume down or maybe up on that computer or device that you're listening. So time to tune in a little bit. Hey, these next two are really great as well. Say things others do not say, and then feel things others do not feel. I was talking to a mega yesterday, and they were saying, you know what, like, I'm bringing people onto my team and doing this whole thing, and golly, man, the emotions that people are bringing to me, I've always just head down, like straight into the storm and just roll with it. I'm like, and if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you're going to go together. And part of going together is meeting people where they are and helping them understand some of those emotions are really, really serving them. They're going to be a set up for that next great step in their life. And they may also be a blind spot or a hindrance and keeping them from seeing that bigger picture. So you've got to get that EQ going, that emotional intelligence, and really start to understand and start to feel. Another part of this is when you're able to accept your feelings in certain arenas, when you're able to go through something and weather that storm emotionally, you can also relate to others. Kyle, what did I miss here, man?
Oh man, I think you're spot on, buddy. I think you're spot on. I
Yeah.
think when we're seeing the things others won't, right? We're believing things others do not. We're saying the things others won't. Say the thing. Say the
Mhm.
thing no one will say, right? Feeling things, being empathetic. I think it leads us into the next step, bro, which is do the things others won't do. We got to
That's
get
right.
into action, guys. Gary says this. If you are believing all this stuff and thinking all this stuff and not actually taking action, you're just living a cool life in your head.
A lot of couch surfers out there. A lot of people in the comments saying, well, I saw this muscle up video this morning. Shock and awe, a gym video popped on my feed. Right, this dude's doing a muscle up, and he's literally got 2 to 3 plates hanging from a gym belt, like he's doing muscle ups with that. Very impressive. And I'm like, dude, that's great. So I go to give him some love. I'm like, congratulate. I've never seen that. Congratulations. And so many people, well, he's short and his arms are stocky. And this, I'm like, what are you doing today? What are you doing with your life? Right. So you're going to do things others don't see. And guys, I got to tell you, just get ready for some of this and yet tune it out. Because if you get into action, you're going to live a different style of life. And it goes back to what Kyle said. Don't listen to advice from others. I also want to emphasize, don't listen or let people distract you from the naysaying when they're living a life different from what you desire. And it's tough to tune those out all the time. And yet if you don't have haters, I'm curious if you're doing anything that's gonna be shaking the boat and kind of living that bigger life. This final thing that we've got on this point right here, as far as the transformational leader, receive things others do not receive. Kyle, what do you take from that statement?
So I think it is the opposite kind of that goes hand in hand. Not the opposite, it's the asterisk to what we say on stop listening to other people. I think you have to receive constructive feedback well.
Hmm.
I think you have
Hmm.
to receive coaching well that is meant for your good, that is calling out a blind spot or calling out something you're not doing as well as you could or showing you a different path. I think we have to be open. And so it's a filter process, right? Don't listen to people who are looking to bring you down, but do listen to people who have your best interests at heart, who have been there where you're trying to go, who are calling you out for your laziness. If it's my opinion, like if it's me, right? Like say, hey, Kyle, come on, brother, get your butt up and go get it. Like we got to be open. We got to receive that coaching. And Marcus, I know me and you over the years, brother, have received some feedback we didn't want to hear, didn't feel good, but it was necessary.
You know what? Honestly, if my coaches in my world and the influencers in my world aren't shaking me up at least a couple times a month, I probably don't have the right coaches in my life. Like full disclosure, because I'm always going to show up with some kind of blind spot or some kind of shortcoming. I'm human, and that's part of it. Have somebody holding me accountable to these actions, these activities, the whole deal. For me and you, man, I'll show the cards. When we have something on the calendar and I'm a couple minutes late, or and I'm like, hey man, can we move it? Kyle holds me really accountable. He's like, hey, and he hits me with some great questions. And guys, this is business partnership. He's like, hey
Mhm.
man, what do I need to do to have you respect my time? And I'm like, oh my God, don't melt me right here in my own chair, right? Life happens. Yes, he's going to give me grace on that. And yet at the same time, standards are standards. So
Give him,
it's made
give
us
him a little
meet
poke.
at a better, yeah, it's made us meet at a better, and here's the thing, being in business with somebody, when you respect somebody calling you out like that, that's the difference in holding that standard. That's when you know you're in partnership with the right person.
Where
So,
are they coming from? Are they
right,
coming to lift you up? Or are they coming to beat you down? Right?
right, right. Am I
Yeah.
saying this to attack or am I saying this to build? That's perfectly said.
I know we got to move on, but I've got to share one too, Marcus, because we're very open and transparent. And I'll give you guys one piece of feedback that I got years ago, man, 11, 12 years ago now, from a really, really successful businessman. And we were working together, or I was working for him. And he had brought me in to build or save a concept. And we're coming through and I crushed it. Right. And he goes, hey, man, I just want to remind you, you're not as cool as you think you are. And I was like, ouch.
Right.
But guy, let me tell you something. That is like the best feedback I've ever gotten. This is 12 years ago, and that lives rent free in my head, bro. Like,
Hmm.
you got to remember, dude, you can do some cool stuff, but you're not as cool as you think you are. Like, there are things that helped you along the way, in a nutshell. No one succeeds alone. So anyway, that was my big humility thing that still lives right here, guys. You're not as cool as you think you are, but you are pretty awesome.
You are awesome in your own right. Let's move on, man, because personal conviction, when we're talking about transformational leaders, when we're talking about getting into this whole thing, we've got 3 points, and it all is impacted with conviction first. Kyle, real quick recap. Define conviction, my friend.
Yeah, man. My version of conviction, or I guess my definition, we'll see if this checks out, is man, it's like popcorn in your teeth.
Mm,
People are like, that sounds weird.
it does.
I think it's when you're convicted of something and you're not doing it, it lingers on you physically, mentally, spiritually. Like it's just there, like something's wrong, right? You got to do it. When you are convicted of something, you feel it. You got to go get it. It's just heavy on you, man. You're forced, almost compelled is probably a better word, compelled to do something. So that's my version of conviction.
I like it. Webster says a conviction can refer to a strong belief or persuasion. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you beat Noah today, all right? Because that
Amen.
his is light, and I kind of like yours a whole lot better. So yeah, that conviction lives deep in us, right? First and foremost, I can make a difference. Do you truly believe it? Ed Milet says this: everybody you lead does not have to believe what you're saying. They only have to believe that you believe what you're saying. How are you articulating your vision, your goals, your processes? How are you showing up as a human being? And are you saying it with such conviction that people are like, I've got to get in business with that person. I've got to be a part of their world. How are you showing up with your belief? It first starts here, and then it has to manifest through. Kyle, what else you got for us?
Man, on like let's take that to not just leadership, let's take it to sales,
Come
bro.
on.
On your calls, on your strategy sessions, on your appointments. The consumer doesn't want you to make them believe the product. They just want to believe that you fundamentally believe in the product. That is how you should be showing up. You've got to come with the conviction and the belief that the value you bring as a real estate professional is of the utmost importance to that person. And I think that is what Ed Millett's talking about when you go to the sales version of it.
I agree completely. We've got another quote here that kind of ties in from Winston Churchill. Before he can inspire them with any emotion, he must be swayed by it himself. Before he can move their tears, his own must flow. To convince them, he must believe himself. And I think that kind of puts a bow on this portion. For other people to believe, you truly have to believe in it yourself and show up with that. What's our second conviction, my friend?
People conviction. People can improve their lives, man. We've got to strongly believe that. Like, I show up every day as a coach because I truly believe that people can improve their lives. I show up as a real estate professional because I truly believe that we can help people improve their lives. You're walking with a different authority when you're making calls thinking that you can fundamentally change the financial direction of a person, their family, their generational wealth. That is showing up different than I got to make these calls today. What are we
Mhm.
convicted of, Marcus? You
Yeah.
know?
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. And by believing in other people, we have gotten the opportunity to truly see them transform. Sometimes it's as short as 6 weeks. Other
Mhm.
times, maybe one-on-one clients or people that we're in business with locally, maybe it takes a little bit longer to fully watch that transformation happen. And yet the stories that we could tell, I mean, even if it's just mindset, not even bank account related, some of the most negative people coming in on day one, not a shot, not an insult. And yet by graduation day, they were some of the most positive people. They're bringing cupcakes for their team, whereas before they didn't even want to talk to anybody in the room. They were forced to be there by their TL or somebody. And
Sure.
yet that transformation, man, makes a huge difference, because if it's there, it's also back home with their people, right?
That's right. Number 3, man, purpose conviction. When I know my why, I know my way. If you've been with Club K.W for any stretch of time, you understand that we talk about big whys, we talk about purpose, because when we have that, when our why is big enough, the how doesn't matter. It's something that we need that's strong enough to get up when we don't feel like getting up, to make the calls when we don't feel like it, to show up at the office, to get ready, and to do the things because we have a big fuel behind that fire that's feeding it. And Marcus, he kind of breaks this down into four different things, and I'll go through the first two. He talks about low personal belief, when you have low personal belief and
Hmm.
low purpose belief. So essentially, when I don't believe a lot of myself, when my self image is low, and when I don't have a big why or a purpose or have a very small one, I will never get started. I will never do the thing or make the calls or start the business or put myself out there because I have a low self image and I have a low driver. The
That
next
would
one that
be that would be kind of like saying, I'm not really good at these calls things, and you know what? I can sell homes or not. I mean, it just is what it is. I don't really know why I'm doing it. That's the example. Keep going, Bubba.
Yeah, you won't get started, right?
Yeah.
High personal belief. Let's say you do have a high self image, you do think great of yourself, but you don't have a big why. You don't have a big purpose. It's very low. It says, I won't continue. Whenever it gets hard, whenever the market shifts, that's usually when you give up. Marcus, how do you see that one going?
Well, my thing is if we don't have that big purpose or that big belief in what we're doing, maybe we have, I can do this. Oh, now it's really tough to do it. Well, it's hard or it requires more effort. And when more effort's involved and I don't have a big why attached to the effort, I'm gonna find just other that's where greener grass comes into play. Where else could I go to make life a little bit easier, right? Which moves us on to number 3, low personal belief plus high purpose belief. So low on yourself and yet huge purpose out there, big time. I won't achieve my purpose. So the purpose is out there, and yet I don't believe here. So I probably will never hit it because I don't believe that I can. Right. I won't get there because of all the limiting beliefs that I insert here, all my shortcomings, all the hiccups along the way that I'm not good enough to overcome. And then number 4, Kyle, I'm going to cue you up on this: high personal belief plus having a high purpose. High personal, high purpose. I will achieve anything.
Mhm. I
And
think
when
it's
you
spot on, man. I think that's what where we should desire or where we should end up. Our goal is to get there. Like when you believe in yourself
boom.
and you believe in what you're doing,
Mhm.
buddy, nothing can stop you. And speaking for myself, right? I think reminding yourself of those things is what helps get you through that. Because I would be lying to each and every one of you out there listening if I told you every single day, every single morning, every single second of every day, I have a high personal belief and I have a high purpose belief. That's not the human condition. Our goal is to get back into that, to reground ourselves on that whenever we start to drown, whenever we start to get rocky, go through the storm. So I think it's very important that we find triggers or boundaries to ourselves to swing back into that high purpose and high personal belief whenever we falter.
Love that, man. And we're going to give you guys 4 questions on developing your convictions real quick. So take some notes, maybe take some mental notes if you're in the car or driving or anything of that nature. First and foremost, what do you feel? Emotion based, right? What feelings speak to you? I like this one. What touches your heart deeply? What touches your heart deeply? Number 2, what do you know? Following feelings while ignoring facts will limit you. I'll say that
Mm.
again. Following feelings while ignoring facts will limit you. Kyle, what's number 3 and 4, brother?
What do you think, man? This is taking what you feel and what you know and turning it into a belief pattern, right? Marrying those two together. This is one of the higher forms that we can. Taking our feelings, what speaks to us, taking what we know, our logic, and then putting that together. What have you figured out is a good question to ask,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What have you learned by examining your successes and your failures? That's going to start to make that belief, and then that takes us into the best one, in my opinion. What will you do? What action are you going to take now that you have this belief? Now that you've, like Marcus likes to say, watch the game film, what are your actions going to be now? So I think we have to ask ourselves those questions probably on a weekly basis at minimum. What do I feel? What do I know? What do I think? And what will I do?
I like the way he structures the questions because it's not just out the gate, what are you going to do? you've got to really assess things to find what you're going to do first. We got to set the course and then take action. So my high D personalities out there, potentially my doers, my goers, it's time to take a breath first and analyze before we
Yeah.
take action, because sometimes we're just on that hamster wheel, running gun and running gun and running gun and not figuring out why we're not hitting that ultimate life that we're looking for. Kyle, I think
Marcus,
we
I,
did
I
that the
think
second time.
yeah, I think this is as best as we can break this chapter down for these people, man. You
I
know,
agree.
guys, take these things, take these nuggets, watch them back, write them down, spend some time reflecting on them, and become a better communicator, right? Become a convicted person, become someone who is compelled to do good, become someone who has a high personal belief and a high purpose belief, and go out there and make some great stuff happen today. We got a beautiful weekend coming up. We got the holidays. Marcus, any final thoughts for our people out there in the internet?
Man, I'm just sitting here thinking sometimes the holidays bring great thoughts and great feelings. Other times they can be a little downer, right? Whether
Sure.
the weather change, the seasonality of allergies, whoo, hit our family. Maybe the hustle and bustle is, guys, just take you a deep breath, maybe 5, right? Settle into what's the most important thing for you to accomplish today. A lot of noise, and noise will always be there. Start saying no to some of that stuff that's not serving you, and yet step into the most important aspects. Don't lose sight of this time of year. Gratitude, family, friends, just overall, just be present as you possibly can be. We're proud of you. Way to finish strong on a Friday, and we'll see y'all next week.